Welcome to the Verdin Verdict Sports Show. I'm your host, Jacob Verdict. Got my guy, G Sports, in the building. Man, look, 4-0. LSU took care of Southeastern, 56-10. Very close to our prediction. I was thinking Southeastern would get held under 10. They crossed the threshold. Everybody looked good tonight, though, from Garrett Nussmeier. And obviously, we were talking about torso injury. Is it going to affect play calling? Is he going to be able to throw that deep ball? He looked good. He had a lot of moments where he was able to let that thing loose. And obviously, Michael Van Buren comes in the second half. And, gee, man, he looked sharp. Yeah. He had 1 touchdown, 122 yards, 10 for 12. But one of those incompletions, that shot to Jelani Watkins through the hands, it was opportunity, a missed opportunity. But, hey, Michael Van Buren looked great. Juwan Johnson almost had a hat trick. He got 2 touchdowns to finish on 8 carries, 5.4 yards per carry. Harlem Berry got 7 carries as well, 4 yards per carry. Not a huge day. Here's what I'll say. So Caleb Jackson only had 2 attempts. I want to ask you about that, and I also want to bring up this. One of those attempts was not bad. Like, it was one of the best runs or better runs I've seen in like the last year from him. He tried to put the shoulder into him. He got a little bit of a pop. Probably was on like 6 yards. But what's going on with this? Do you think we're going to get that going, or is this just something we might always see?
The way Juwan Johnson playing right now, it's going to be hard for Caleb to get more opportunities. You know, when you take Caden Durham off the field and you put Juwan, you're really not missing a beat.
No.
And he showed it tonight, and I think he's going to insert himself to get more touches going forward. Caleb still got to be an important element to this offense going forward. Like, I think, you know, he's not going to be someone that he's going to be forgotten. He's going to be somebody, I think, as the season goes on, they're going to still try to find ways to implement him. But it's just hard when you got 2 running backs that's playing at a high level right now. So, you know, kudos to Juwan Johnson. I think a lot of defensive coordinators are going to have to really game plan for him when he gets in.
Yep.
You saw tonight, man, he's super, super dynamic, man. I know that his confidence through the roof right now.
And it's exciting, too, because it's like, man, we're watching and we're excited by the rushing production, but there's a receiving element to this shit. There's even a passing element to this if you really want to get tricky. Who was the player that, you know, kind of took your surprise tonight like that? You're like, all right, cool, turn my head a little bit.
Damian Shanklin, the freshman defensive end, he had 2 sacks tonight, played with a high motor. Dylan Carpenter came in, had got him a sack. He played with a high motor. Yep. I like what I saw from Micah Turner. They tried to throw the back shoulder fade on him, and he got his head turned around, got the PBU. Those young guys coming in the game showed you what they could be going forward in the future. And so, you know, I was talking to Corey Raymond after the game, and he said, man, Micah Turner has a chance to be so good. He just got to get a little stronger, and he got to be patient and wait his turn. But he think he has a chance to be, you know, one of the best DBs going forward.
Add another name to the rotation, because now you got an insane amount of depth. And then, you got so many other names that still, I feel like you haven't even scratched the surface yet on their potential. Like, this whole defense is so stacked all over the place. Deshaun Spears led tonight in tackles. You got Gabe Relaford with a tackle for loss. He went down with an injury. On the way to see Brian Kelly's update on that. I'm sure we won't find out much until probably Monday or Wednesday. They're going to let that drag out, especially with the SEC week, because you got Ole Miss on the agenda next. I'll talk about that in a second, but I want to ask you about the receiving core. Bowers Sharp, 5 catches, 73 yards, 14 yards per reception, gets a touchdown. Barian Brown gets a touchdown. Kyle Parker gets annihilated, gets right through the goal line, took a tough-ass hit, still scored. I mean, it looks like you got so many weapons. You got Juwan Johnson, you got those 3 I just named. Garrett Nussmeier reached and got in for 1. How do you build off of tonight? Because we've been criticizing the offense, and tonight they answered. They had a 50 ball, they dropped a lot of points, they had a lot of touchdowns. I feel like they look good.
Yeah, when you look at
that damn truck. Oh, what the hell? John Deere about to bust us up. All right, perfect. They knew the drill.
All right. Ask it again.
Just the offense criticism. We're kind of like, all right, when is the production coming? And tonight, it seemed like it showed up.
They had like 13, 14 different receivers catch the ball. And, you know, when you play against a team like Southeastern, you're going to see a lot of different people get in. You know, even Phillip Wright, the true freshman guy, and they caught a pass. They had 13, 14 different receivers get involved. And, you know, that's not something you're going to see on a consistent basis. When you play a team like Southeastern, Phillip Wright, the true freshman guy, and he caught a pass. So, but I think when you look at them, Aaron Anderson, Barian Brown, when Tre'Davious Green comes back, I think that's the 3 top receivers in this receiving room. Xavier Thomas, you got to add him to the mix.
Yes, you do.
I like how they try to get Nick Anderson involved tonight, though. He couldn't convert on some of those catches, but I think they got to keep trying to feed him and get him involved, especially if Tre'Davious Green not going to be available, especially if he's not going to be 100%, because he's that big body receiver. And I'm going to keep talking about that, because when you get into the thick of this SEC schedule, you're going to need that length on third down and long and in the red zone. And so I hope Joe Sloan keeps trying to find a way to get Nick Anderson involved. I like the way Michael Van Buren looked. He looked exactly how I thought he was going to look Going back to when I saw him last year as a true freshman at Mississippi State playing against Georgia, throwing for over 300 yards. You saw him being able to extend plays with his legs, spin move, putting that foot in the ground, keeping his eyes downfield. He made some good throws. Like you talked about, that throw he threw to Jelani, on the money, put it in the bread basket.
Beautiful.
And I think when you look at somebody like Michael Van Buren, you see he has the skill set, he has the arm talent, he has the athleticism.
Yep.
He just needs reps and experience. And I think, Joe Sloan and Brian Kelly, as they get ready to evaluate him going into the offseason, I think they're going to be confident in Michael Van Buren to be a potential starter for next year. But I do think they still going to bring somebody in from the portal to compete with him. And then you still got Colin Hurley on the roster. But I really like what I saw from Michael Van Buren tonight.
Yeah, because it's a long season. You never know who hops in that portal. There's a couple of names that we're going to be watching. But in terms of watching this offense develop, Trudez Green next week, what you think is going to be the key for that? Because we saw him warm up today. We saw him in pads, moving around, catching balls. And he doesn't look like he's, like slowed down. But to your point, is it worth risking one of your best targets?
If I was Brian Kelly, and I'm pretty sure he's been around over 30 years coaching, so he understands how this goes. If Trudez Green is not at least 80% by Thursday, I wouldn't even play him against Ole Miss. That's just my personal opinion. I'd rather be safe than sorry. Mm-hmm. You're going to need him as you get ready to play South Carolina and the Bamas of the world going down the line, Oklahoma, Texas A&M. I wouldn't put him out there if he's not at least 80%. That's just my personal opinion. I think they could get by against Ole Miss without Trudez. Nah, if he's 80% or more, let's go 14. Suit up.
Might as well, because, and to be careful in your instance, if you're not 80%, you don't want to add on to this injury report. The West Weeks, Garrett Nussmeier, Gabe Relaford. There's a lot of other pieces here. I want to ask you this when we talk about Ole Miss real quick. I want to talk about Weston Davis, the false start penalties, just things like that. You think he's going to be able to grow out of that with the experience, with the reps as you increase?
I'm going to be honest with you. Weston Davis is off to a slow start.
Right.
He's been struggling going back to the Clemson game. And I would not be surprised if you see Brad Davis and Brian Kelly them have a staff meeting this week and probably make a change right there. I would not be surprised because he's been struggling. And they gave him this the fourth game of the year.
Yeah. So
you should kind of be in the groove. You should kind of be understanding and being able to play at the level they expect you to play. And he just has not played at that level. And I think you can see a change coming soon. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, you're over a quarter of the season. I mean, like the continuity would start now, especially because like the first year when LSU was piecing all these offensive lines together, it took them 6 weeks to find their final offensive line combination. Yeah. So time's ticking.
And I think he was battling with Kerry's Kern.
Yeah.
In camp. So.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's somebody that implement that lineup going forward, bro.
Yep. And look, came in when he was hurt.
Yeah, and look, and I know a lot of the LSU fans and people in the media are giving Weston Davis a hard time. Look. Pump the brakes. He's still a redshirt freshman. He's still young. This is his first year starting. I think he has a chance to be really, really good. You can't teach that size and power he has.
Yeah.
He just got to figure it out, man, and kind of work on the technical part and get his mental down pack. And I think he'll be all right, man. But I wouldn't just start hitting the panic button on Weston Davis and saying he's not going to be good. The level is too big for him. I think people need to pump the brakes on that.
I agree. I want to ask you this before we hop out. Ole Miss, man, they took care of Tulane, and I mean they took care of business, bro. Yeah. You had Lane Kiffin in the middle of the game throwing lobs to people, dunking it on the sideline in basketball hoop. Like, bro, your head coach is playing a whole different sport in the middle of the game. I mean, Ole Miss is on fire. We're going to be walking into Oxford, and it's going to be a rowdy environment. We know what happened last year, G. Right here in this very end zone. We know what happened. I feel like they got a little chip on their shoulder coming in. Come on. They got a little chip on their shoulder, man. You know it.
Yeah. Lane got that offense hitting on all cylinders, bro. And it's more impressive because he playing with a backup quarterback. They haven't missed a beat since Austin Simmons just went down. He got a plethora of receivers. He got a good running game, good offensive line. I like what they're doing on defense. Pete Golden gonna rotate a lot of guys on that defensive front. Don't forget Deshaun Womack, the former LSU Tiger. He gonna have it out. Sage Ryan, the former LSU Tiger, playing at safety. He gonna have it out.
Shit, they got Logan Diggs too, but I don't know if he playing.
Logan isn't getting as many snaps as Womack and Sage Ryan, but I think this Saturday we're gonna have a lot of storylines when you talk about former LSU Tiger, Pete Golden being from Louisiana, things of that nature, and then how they lost last year. They're gonna be on a revenge tour on next Saturday.
Like, you don't lead the entire game and then you walk out of Tiger Stadium with an L. History. Appreciate your time, G. You know the drill. We're gonna be live Monday at 1 o'clock to break down the game. LSU versus Ole Miss, number 3 versus number 13. Be there. We're gonna be traveling. Y'all have a good one.